to open this week's View from the Ninian podcast, we'll go to the immortal words of Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday. We're in hell right now, gentlemen. And we are, because we're Cardiff City fans. And hell is just an everyday state when you support this godforsaken football club. It's been a few weeks, and I'm sure you're delighted to have us back, as we're as delighted to be back. Joining me, as always, to discuss whatever's going on in the world of Cardiff City, Ben Price, Tom Phillips. Ben Price, tell them about the hat. You're wearing a hat. Tell them why you're wearing the hat.
Yeah, Cardiff launched their collaboration with Fresh Ego Kid, and I got a freebie for doing a piece to camera, and I love it, and now I'm a hat person. So, yeah.
And you're sweaty.
I'm very sweaty, yeah. We've literally, it's our time here. It's 9:30 at night. I finished football, drove straight here from Gaul. I'm stinking in sweat, and yeah, it's fun and games.
Joining Ben in the hat backward crew, it's Tom Phillips, but you are down under, Tom. It is tomorrow your time. Have we sacked Erol Bulut yet?
Not here. No word yet. I'm keeping an eye out just in case, but I'll let you know as soon as I find out.
Thanks very much. Yeah, it's been a few weeks. A lot has gone on in the world of Cardiff City. None of it good. So we'll start with the most recent game, Derby County at the weekend. We lost, because we lose every game now, apparently, apart from the one game we drew with Swansea. Ben, I'll come to you first. The first thing I've written here is, what a load of shit.
I think summed it up perfectly. Let's move on, shall we?
What a dreadful game of football.
It's the same thing, but worse, isn't it? Like, yeah. You know how you sort of hope the season gets on and things progress and things get better? They're not. They've started pretty poorly and have absolutely nosedived, haven't they? I really want to be positive and sort of come with this and go because look, we all predicted a good season for us this year. We're none of that looking over our shoulder and that relegation worries. Everything's on the up. The club's on the thin.
We're right.
Yeah, there's nobody behind us. We're not looking over our shoulder.
That's very true. But yeah, it's just bleak, isn't it? Just bleak. I'm fed up with going to work and people going who don't really know football, knowing how bad Cardiff are at the moment. That's the really depressing thing of going to work and everyone going, "Oh, Cardiff are shite, aren't they?" And I'm going, "Yep."
It's come to a point where it's really annoying that I've made football like a big part of my personality, and then making Cardiff City a really big part of my personality as well, because I'm the go-to Cardiff fan for a lot of people. Yeah. And I'm just ignoring people at the moment. I've literally told people on Saturdays, like, I don't want to talk about it. Just, people try to say, well, what's gone wrong? It's like, I don't want to talk about it. I do not want to spend my time talking about how bad Cardiff City are. And it's great that we do a podcast about it, because, it's Monday night, it's 9:45. I'd be happily asleep right now, but instead I'm sat here having to talk it over with you guys, which I enjoy, but also I don't. Tom, you've woken up at 6:30 Australia time for this to do the podcast. So, everyone should be really appreciative of that. I've written here, loads of changes, but no change. 6 or 7 changes to the starting lineup on Saturday, and nothing changed, did it?
Yeah, it's just. I was going to try to promise myself I wouldn't just start by making a noise like that, but I've done it already.
It's the noise. Sum it up with the noise.
but like Ben summed it up earlier, it's like it's the same but worse, but more shit or whatever he said, and it kind of sums it up perfectly. It's like even when we make changes to the team, it just looks exactly the same. Mm-hmm. It's just we're completely toothless going forward. We seem a little bit erratic when we got the ball. We seem to give it away in key areas, and it's not like a certain player who's doing it. It just seems to be across the board. And then, like we've got written down, like shit goal to concede. I feel like I've seen this goal like 40 times, and I feel like I've said this 40 times. It's the ball goes wide, goes to the byline, cuts across a load of statues. They tap it in the net, and it's just like, how is this still happening? Like, we've got some good defenders there, and they're just static all the time. And it's like, it's not like you beat one man to get to the ball. It goes past like 4 or 5 players. And it's like, these professional footballers, and afterwards, there's no one berating anyone. There's no one who looks like completely shocked by it. It's like, oh, that's happened again. We look completely like, just like, oh, like, okay, let's trudge back up to the halfway line and hope we don't do it another time in this game. But I'm just kind of sick of seeing that goal over and over again.
I've realised players' reactions when we concede is the same whenever I try and play Call of Duty after not playing it for like 5 years. I've got one kill and I've died like 100 times, and it is very much of, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's happened again. Spawn in, get blown to pieces. Yeah, by a 10-year-old getting mugged off, and then just sort of trudging back. It feels very much like that.
I was playing college football earlier on the PS5, and that game's hard, right? Because one, I don't really understand American football, and two, it's harder because they're college football players. And every time I threw an interception, I would just go, "Yep, makes sense. I've done it again." I'd throw 6 in one game, and I'd go, "Yeah, of course. I don't understand this game, so of course it makes sense." So I completely understand where the kind of players are coming from. Then some of the changes that came in, Bagan came in, obviously Gutas came in, Rolls came in, Colwell came in, El Ghazi came in, Alnwick came in. Any of them do anything for you?
No.
Good.
They came in, they may as well not bothered. It may as well been the same starting 11s last time. And that then goes to show it's more than just a player issue, isn't it? It's something deeply, deeply wrong within that squad. You want players to go in there and make an impact and sort of at least try and make stuff happen. And any player that seems to start the match, it doesn't work. It tends to be players coming off the bench that sort of try and make things happen. Tanner came off the bench and made stuff happen. Not much, but stuff happened. Tanner caused more problem after the game than he did during the game, but still, he was still one of the better up, like made something happen at least. It's a really, really worrying trend that then if you're promising changes and we'll see a change and it looks exactly the same despite changing personnel, I think it then shows perhaps it's not it's not entirely on the players. A lot of it is on the players, don't get me wrong. But I've been very careful not to criticize Bulut. I haven't wanted to jump the gun too soon, but there's clearly issues there, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, we'll get on to the state of play with Erol Bulut. It's got very toxic very quickly. Tom, is that this could be a very bleak podcast. So let's try and find some positives. Is it a good thing that we're still dominating the passing stats, the possession stats, or does that really matter anymore?
No, it's not a good thing when you're not doing anything with it. I think that's the issue. There's no kind of like impetus to get forward. We just look like we're completely out of ideas. And I think we were fairly forgiving at first when this was happening because it was a change. We weren't a team who had a lot of ball. When we thought this was progress, like we're getting a bit more ball, we're playing it about. And, as we get further and further in, we'll create more with it. But somehow we're kind of creating less.
A lot less.
And like you've got some exciting names on that team, Stu. When you say like Colwell comes in, you've got El Ghazi, names that we are really, really excited about, and like names that if that team were coming to us would strike a little bit of fear. There's some Premier League quality in that squad now. You've got some exciting youngsters, but we're kind of getting nothing out of it. And the passing football we're playing is like turgid passing football. We're not cutting through lines. We're not making runs behind. And then that's why it's so frustrating seeing the likes of like Mark Harris scoring goals for Oxford, because he's a player who can do those lines and they're finding his passing. And you kind of wonder when you see those players move on then saying, oh, perhaps it wasn't him, it was us. And it's just, like you said, we were saying the same things each week. And we were all so excited, I think, just to get Bulut re-signed, a bit of continuity. But the problem is, it's been complete continuity. It's like nothing has changed. There's been no positive. There's been no kind of progress over the last kind of probably 6 months now. So, okay, that wasn't very good at finding positives. Hearing that back, must admit.
It's okay. I'm just on FOTMob. I was just digging up some stats. If you want some positivity, goals per match. No, we're 0.2 at the moment, so bottom of that. Expected goals per match. Expected goals throughout the season, 3.2, bottom of the league.
That's what the end.
Yeah, shots on target per match, 3.4, 18th. Big chances missed. We've only missed 3 big chances, which
that's worrying.
That is worrying, but I think that's only because we've created 3 big chances. Accurate long balls per match were 10th. Defense. Here we go. Goals conceded per match. Oh no, 22nd, 2.2. So Ben, it's all going wrong, isn't it?
Yeah. What's happened between now and pre-season? I don't get it. Because pre-season was decent. We looked all right. Like we looked like you think back to some of those games, like Hamburg and stuff like that. We were genuinely good and full of optimism, full of excitement for this new season. And what's the date today? It is the 16th of September, and I'm already desperate for May to come. Never mind Green Day wake me up when September ends. Wake me up when this season ends is sort of what I'm feeling at the moment.
Well, I was at the Bristol Rovers game, which we won 2-0, obviously Bristol Rovers. But like the way we set up from goal kicks there was completely different to the way we're doing it now. And it's like, why would you spend the whole of pre-season like drilling them? Like they were drilling in that it was like centre back split, wing backs pushed on, Siopis came into the middle to collect the ball, and then we spread it wide and went that way. We don't do that anymore. We give it to Chambers or Darland, it gets knocked around the back, and then we boot it forward. None of it, like, there's no cohesion between the team that we had in pre-season to the team there is now. We heard Ramsey talking about it's going to be lots of little intricate passing and things like that. We're passing the ball more, but it's not going anywhere. It's not the kind of progressive passing that they promised. It's just I honestly don't know what's happened, because the only good bit of football we've played, obviously Burnley wasn't too bad. We did lose 5-0. And the Swansea second half was all right. You know, there was a half an hour period in that Swansea second half where it was like, we could win this game. And it was like, this is where we kick on from. It was like we looked at that Swansea second half and went, nah, I don't want to do that again. That was too nice. And we just went straight back to a completely different way of playing football. And I don't understand why. There's no answer to there's no coherent answer given by the management team or Bulut or whoever to say why we're playing a completely different way now than we were.
You think back to the start of last season and the style and what was sort of being done there. And I think that's what I've hung my hat on with Bulut for so long, is we can get that back. And we're further away, almost over a year on from that, than we ever have been. It's bizarre just how much regression there's been when we're supposed to be having consistency and sort of things being built on. And that's really the sort of stark reality of what's gone on with Bulut at the moment, isn't it? It's just either in start of last season is not what Bulut wanted at all, and it was just a pure fluke that we looked like that, or he does not seem confident enough in himself, belief in that squad and what he's doing to bring that back. I don't know what it is, but there's something there that's just preventing all that from coming back.
It's a better squad. That's the I think that's the frustrating thing. I think if we have been backed to a point, we spend money for the first time in a long time as well. So, like, I know there's a lot of finger pointed towards the owners, and there still should be, right? They're not free of anything. But there's certain parts that we kind of got right in that respect for the season. Like, we brought players in, and exciting players of that. We weren't just filling the squad. We've got some real quality in there. And I think that's where the frustration has come in now, is that if we come into the season with the same squad again, clearly lacking quality in certain areas and we weren't getting the football, then you can kind of go, okay, I understand why, he hasn't got the players he wants. But it doesn't seem like that this season, from the outside anyway.
I feel like there's a little bit of that. I think you clearly see desperate for a striker. I think when he signed that, I think Paulo Bandonata mentioned that Kang was like 4th or 5th choice. Like, he's clearly not the bloke that I saw on YouTube. It's just a completely different bloke has turned up. Because
I just think Kanga is a product of the system that he plays in, and he can't do everything.
No.
When you look at Kiefer Moore, we played Kiefer Moore in a way that we're trying to play Kanga now, where Kiefer Moore would come deep, get the ball to the channel, and then get into the box. Kanga can't do that all. He's just simply not good enough, and we just persevere with playing balls to him and not supporting him. Like, if you're going to play a singular striker with a 10 and 2 wingers, those players need to get beyond the striker's shoulders when the ball's going to him. Someone needs to hang, if the ball's going to Kanga as a target man, someone needs to be making the run as soon as he heads the ball and trying to get onto the ball. But we're not doing that. There's no urgency. I get it. I don't think Kanga is I said in pre-season, if Kanga's the answer, then what's the question? I feel sorry for him in that sense, because we're trying to hang our hat on somebody who is trying to be like a square peg in a round hole. But at least play the striker in the way that's going to suit his game and going to be conducive to getting results from him. Instead, we just go, I don't know, run around in the 9, figure it out. It just seems to be no instruction for him.
It's all just messy, and it's just.
It's a joke.
It's sad. It's sad. It's got this. We're only 5 games in.
5 games in.
That's what makes it really sad. That just how bleak it's got very quickly.
I think it's just that we're losing these games, and I don't know what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
If you had some sort of idea of what we were trying to get out of this, or what we were trying to progress towards, you'd be a little bit more forgiving. Because I think for once, Cardiff fans were being fairly patient. I think it's because we direct our anger at the owners as much as we do, and again, rightly so. Bulut got a little bit of a free pass. We were just kind of clinging to the fact that we wanted some continuity, no matter what that continuity was. But now, looking at it, it's just not working. I don't know what he's trying to do. We looked like we were kind of fairly shored up at the back for a while, and that's gone to pot as well.
And we've changed that. We've gone we've gone from man marking to zonal, and that's where all that problem's coming from. And it looks horrific. And
when it goes wrong, it looks awful.
We've also done that, and we've also taken away our goal threat from set pieces as well. When you think of where a lot of our goals came from last season, we've removed Gutas, we've removed NG from the equation to some extent, and it means that we're not then when we have set pieces, it doesn't look like we're going to score from them. So it's bad at both ends, like that, food poisoning. Gareth Davis, and it's a pertinent question because you just touched on it then, Tom. Said I always thought you guys were too easy on Bulut. I'm guessing you think that too now. I think if you listen to our pods last year, there's going to be a range of opinions from week to week because we do it we're so driven by what happens that week, and we kind of buy into the kind of positivity, negativity each way that it goes. But I think most of us, I speak for myself here, I was happy to give him another year because I think he deserved it from last year. He steadied the ship. Yes, it wasn't the best at times, but the proviso was that if he got his players in this summer and started playing in the right way, things would improve. He's completely gone against that now because if this is the way he wants to play, then it's not working. So therefore, that doesn't work. And he has been backed in the summer to an extent, and he's not getting the best. Is he getting the best out of Callum Chambers? No. Have we seen the best of Al Ghazi so far? No. Is he playing Kanga in the right way? Absolutely not. We haven't barely seen Alex Robertson. We haven't seen Will Fish yet. Darland is the only player you could probably say has had an immediate impact because he looked really good against Swansea, and obviously he's gone straight away from to be injured. But Ben, do you think we were easy on him? Do you think we gave him a free pass, or do you think we were just excited about what could happen this season?
I think we were very excited about what could happen, but I'll openly admit I was very easy on him at times. Like, it's been a long time, sort of stuff has not been great, but I've been willing because I could. Like, I think you said earlier about we could see what was coming and what we were trying to do, and we had ideas of what we thought his plan was going forward, so we're sort of willing to let him do it. Like, what he did last year was tough. Under an embargo, couldn't bring in real players that he wanted without sort of jumping through a million hurdles. Like, to get Siopis and get Gutas in the way he did, they're not easy deals to make happen. So, we probably were a bit easier than we would have been. Like, if it was the same sort of thing with someone like, if McCarthy was still a free instance, we probably would have been a lot harsher. But
I mean, McCarthy got eight or nine losses in a row before fans really lost their way with him.
Yeah, so I think
we're quite a patient fan base to a point.
Sometimes, but then we'll protest about not having a protest. It's a weird dynamic at times at the club. But I think everyone's wanted to be patient purely because we want the success. That clubs that turn over managers year after year after year with no real structure and plan, only end up in one place, and that's the next division below. They don't move upwards. So we were desperate to see that stop. And the omens were good last year. Look, mid-table finish was not to be sniffed at, especially in that league. It was a tough league last year. So, performances probably weren't great from September onwards. They weren't really a 90-minute display where you thought it was brilliant. But there was just enough there to keep me hanging on and going, just give him time. Give him time. And I still want to be like that because I really like the bloke. I really don't want this to end with a club statement, and Cardiff still frustratingly won't use that corner flag picture in their club statement. But it's just, I can't see how long it can go on for like this, because I feel like it's just going to be this discourse of when will it happen until it eventually happens now.
We're in Neil Harris territory.
I think I was definitely too easy, but I'd be too easy again, because I'm looking for the optimism in this, right? You're here to support a football club. I think our fan base are kind of split last year between the ones who were going, look, we're getting results, we're doing all right, and the ones who were looking at it from a football point of view, kind of going, we're not really playing very nice stuff here.
Yeah.
And being angry at that. And they're the ones who are kind of looking like they were in the right position now because we haven't improved it. I think the rest of us are there going, look, this is progress. Not very much, but it's progress. We just need to add that level. And he hasn't added that level.
No.
And that's the problem. It's like we saw green shoots last year of something, and now there aren't any. They've completely ripped up the lawn, and it's just concrete. There's fuck all there at the moment. It doesn't seem like we're going anywhere. We've turfed over it. We've turfed over the squad. And I think that's the issue now. And that's why we're all in the same camp of kind of going, something needs to change here.
We should round off the Derby game before we get into the weeds, as it were, of the Bulut situation. Tom, big question at the end there about Ebu Adams' miss, but the main question for me is, what were Alnwick and Siopis doing? One, why is Alnwick 45 yards away from his goal trying to contend with a header against an absolute bulldozer that is Ebu Adams? And why did Siopis just stop and stare at them as if it was like... I don't know what he was looking at, but he just froze.
Yeah, I think Alnwick's coming out because he's realised that the person who's trying to track back is a 4'3" Greek bloke. And he probably needs a little bit of help. And it's just one of those situations like late in the game, isn't it? Like, but it just looks ridiculous. Like Alnwick flips over like some sort of thing you've seen a ninja film. It was absolutely bonkers. And that's how bad Cardiff are at the moment, that even our former players are lacking confidence in front of goal. You know, it runs deep, this. But it was just a comedy of errors from start to finish from every player involved in that. And it kind of just, at least it was exciting. Like that's the only thing we got to cheer all game, really. But
I think
it was.
If you he obviously makes the miss, and if you look, there's a few Cardiff fans in the crowd who cheer and like, yeah, we can go up the other end and score now. It's like, no, we can't. We're not going to score. Don't you worry about that.
I enjoy how soon he realised just how badly he fucked that up as well. As soon as he left his feet, he's thrown himself on the floor and go, oh no, because it was horrific. It's up there with who missed that sitter for Brentford a couple of years ago.
Was it
yeah, it's up there with that. I think it was that bad.
I think it's worse.
Yeah, it might be.
I think it's worse because I think Morpay's miss is down to good defending. The guy, it was Sol Bamba on the line. He narrows the angle so much that he kind of closes the corner and Morpay puts it wide. Ebu Adams had an empty goal. He could have basically ran it in.
I think if you look at what Sol did as well, I think if you look, he did the old-fashioned thing of just shouting really loud as well, which I think made it funny.
Yeah, that's fantastic, really. Rounding off the Derby game, Ben, with a couple of toxic moments. The fans versus players at full time. 5 games into the season, and the fans and players are already at loggerheads. Enjoyable, isn't it?
Good start. It's like saying in work today. It's nice to see the old.
It's a new record.
It's just nice to see the classics come back at time, isn't it? We've got players being arrested in the press for the wrong reasons. Allegedly,
apparently he wasn't arrested. I should say that now. Apparently,
I'm not saying Tanner. I'm saying there's been players in the last couple of months being arrested.
Okay, fair enough.
R.I.P. Marlon Romeo. It's just sometimes it's nice to see the classics, isn't it? Fans and players having a scrap. All we're missing now is a winger fighting, like racing someone down Chippy Alley, and who knows? Look, the good times could come back. Not on the pitch; they're horrific, but like behind the scenes, the banter is. Why not?
I mean, the bantiers have never gone away, have they? And Tom, obviously, Erol Bulut had a touchline ban, so you couldn't stand on the touchline. But whoever you believe that he could have potentially done the post-match press conference, and he didn't. Does that make him a big cowardly custard?
It just feels like a man who's trying to get sacked. I don't know. So just things are going bad at the moment. I kind of don't blame him. It's just like, why would I bother facing them? I'm just going to get the same questions again. And it just sounded like there wasn't many kind of Cardiff journalists there anyway.
I don't think there was any. Sure. I generally don't think there was any.
Yeah, so I'm not sure like what we would have got out of it, apart from some like generic questions from. Do you know when you're you see those press conferences where the local journalists clearly know nothing about the opposition at all, It just feels like it would have been one of those ones where like, that didn't go too well for you today. Tell us what went wrong. And it's just like, we're going to learn nothing from this. And I bet he's just stood there going, why would I fucking bother? But it is worrying when your manager doesn't turn up for a press conference, though. And it's not the first time.
Yeah, I don't think they were, because Glenn wasn't there because he was on holiday. I don't think the BBC sent anyone. I don't think Wales Online sent anyone in Glenn's absence.
I think no live being broken hasn't sort of been made enough of. It shows how badly things have gone that even when Glenn's out of the country, we still lose. Like normally, if he's gone on holiday, like God bless him, you're normally sure at least a point. But he went to Spain. He took one for the team there, sat around the pool, and Cardiff still couldn't get the job done. That's how badly it is.
Yeah, good. Really good stuff. I mean, we could roll into Twitter. Much of the same on Twitter. Let's do that, shall we? Ty Jordan, our Canadian friend, looking like we may get eclipsed by Wrexham. Sad. I was told this at a Calgary pub like 2 years ago. Didn't want to believe it. Sad to see it happening in front of my eyes. Want to talk Canadian Premier League as a distraction instead. Joe Mason doesn't play there anymore, so my interest in it is gone. Oliver Rees, August Player of the Month. Mark Harris, Ben Price. When are the t-shirts on sale?
I'm speaking with Tor Sports about bringing out a range of merch as we speak. Keep an eye on the channels. Drop soon.
Is it going to be Ballon d'Or themed?
You can't do that until he actually wins it. That would be presumptuous. We all know it's going to happen. Let's not be silly. I think just for right now, it's just him holding Haaland's head and the golden boot at his foot. I think just go with that. Keep it tame.
The Rasping Dog Benny Factor says turgid. Bulut has to go. Nowhere to hide after opening 5 games. 1 goal scored, 11 conceded. Rock bottom with 1 point. Taking us backwards. Gutless at home. Just clueless. Got to go. Get me off the Bulut train. Say how you really feel there. King K. Holy shit, we look bad. Mike Berry, we've been absolutely awful since March. Dragged our feet on, giving Bulut a new contract and left ourselves less time to sort out the transfers. In essence, the board are just as much to blame as the manager and the players. Kieran Edwards said, think it's time, unfortunately, for a change. Really wanted Bulut to do well, but it just isn't working for some reason. Shame it has come to it. Alex Bennett, I've defended Bulut for weeks as I thought we'd have a tough start, and this was our first winnable game, and we offered nothing up front, in my opinion. Very disappointing and not sure what's best for moving forward. John Walsh, for me, it often feels like EB is slightly out of his depth. He seems uneasy when trying to articulate his ideas, and when he does, he hardly inspires or gives you any confidence that he has a clear game plan. His team and in-game selections are often weird. This is an absolutely resounding negativity basket. Reece Jones didn't watch the game and was playing rugby, but sad to see we lost. I came and watched when I work in Llandilo. I'm a fan for Erol. I'm gutted the season so far hasn't been a success, and I hope he can turn things around. Mogsy89, the football seems to have gone backwards in the last few weeks. We have a decent spine with the players brought in, ignoring Darlin's injury, and despite playing very defensive football, we still look like conceding 2 or 3 with the inability to score goals. We're in trouble. The common bluebird after his power play and smug press conference after pushing to get Bulut in. Dalman seems to have found himself a rock to hide under. Tam will be even likely to listen to anyone now. John T.M. Williams, don't really know what to say apart from what's going on. If we had some players with the endeavour and enthusiasm of Sol, we would be laughing. Stephen Williams, he's got to go. Bullet ball, whatever it is, has been sussed out. There's no coming back from this. We have no strikers, but a managerial plan will sort us out. Rosinia, for me, would be playing a more modern football, exciting game, but if he comes, it's debatable. Gareth Dunning had backed Bulut because I back our managers, not a fan of hire and rehire or downing tools at a first attempt, but he's brought that on himself. Today, him and the players showed zero reaction to where they are. He'll be gone when this goes live. Who's next in the hot seat? Well, Gareth, he hasn't gone, so more fool you. Edward Tobing, due to the lack of clear footballing plan and identity at the top of the club, we are going to continue to lurch from manager to manager. Football has moved on immensely, and we are 10 to 15 years behind. They can sack Bulut, but I have zero faith in them appointing a suitable replacement. Tom, Brandon Arthur asks, would you take 20th now if you were offered it?
Not yet, but it's close, I must admit. It's amazing how that can change in 5 games. Because let's not forget, I said 4th. And now I probably would say 4th from bottom. So it's getting to that point. I think ask me after the Leeds game and you might get a bit more of a solid answer from me.
Fair play to you for admitting that, because I'd have blamed edit. If I had the excuse of I said fourth, I'd say it was an editing error, and I said 24th, just to sort of save some face.
No, I'm a brave man. Brave and soldier, to be fair. Thanks.
You're a better man than me.
I keep logging onto my online betting app. Don't bet, guys. It's a mugs game. And threatening to cash out my £5 Cardiff to get promoted bet, because currently I'll get 63 pence. Terry Hansen.
Better than I thought, to be fair.
Yeah, to be honest. Terry Hansen, do we honestly believe that any manager can get a tune out of these players? The signings are terrible, and so-called wonder kids just aren't, and no one can score a goal. Derby were crap, by the way. Again, it's spot on. Martin Jenkins, talk about losing your job with a whimper. Such a negative manager. Nothing brave about his management at all. After a promising start last season, it's been garbage since November. Noah Ninian was cautiously encouraged by our first 4 games despite the results. Felt like it was literally moments away from clicking and we'd be kicking on. With Leeds and Hull up next, yesterday feels like the one in our 3 that was winnable, and we came up with that shit. Stephen Williams, do we beat Leeds on Saturday if Bulut gets sacked? Perry's fan account, how much would you give to have Bellamy as a manager right now? Rob Ashcroft, can we get guesses in for League One season ticket prices now? Chris Pep says, I cannot believe we still haven't found any spark. Love Ruben, but doesn't seem to be able to influence from the start. Has to be big changes for Leeds. We need to honour Bamba in a way he deserves, especially on the pitch. Crowbar Johnny, Tan is the problem. He needs to hand over the baton now. Golf Dweeb says, feels like the preseason hype this year was at an unprecedented levels. I don't think we should get rid of Bulut yet. We've had an awful run of fixtures, 1 or 2 wins, and we're okay again. Stability is more important. This team is not getting relegated. Reece Williams, Bulut out. Matt CCFC, got the feeling of the club being rotten to the core again, just like that. Funny what a few weeks in football can do. Players don't seem arsed, and Bulut has to go. We're getting worse each week. Hate being this negative, but it's painful. Win Howell says, well, Oxford are 7th, Derby are 8th with all our cast-offs. That most Bulut viewed is not good enough, says it all. David Goddard, what I would give for 11 Sol Bambas. This lot of spineless. Callum CFS says Bulut's tactics aren't working. It isn't consistent enough. His starting 11 isn't as good as we want it to be. The most important thing is that we haven't got a goal scorer. We shoot, then miss. I'm fed up with his management and much more. Bulut needs out. Matty Aztec, are we in a relegation battle? MJCCFC, we should probably hold off for the club statement. And Alan Griffiths sums it up succinctly. Hope they all fuck off. Twitter.com/VFT Ninian for all your comments. Look, it's Monday, Ben. Bulut hasn't been sacked yet. If he's not been sacked now, it's not going to happen this week, is it? He's probably sticking around for Leeds.
I'd like to think so, but you never know with this board, do you?
No.
Like, we thought it was going to happen on Saturday, so we held off. We thought the statement might come on Sunday, so we held off doing this pod. You'd think logically he's taken training this week. You think he's got the Leeds game at least to sort of make an impact and see what can be done. But you never know, do you? I really the club just need to come out and say Erol Bulut will be in charge for this game on Saturday. I think at the very least, even if it's the dreaded vote of confidence, just say something, just put it to sort of end the speculation, because the speculation doesn't help with the negative feeling.
No. And I think it reminds me of when Neil Harris was in charge and it was coming to the end of his tenure, because a lot of fans, when Neil Harris was at the end of his tenure, had basically were done with him about a month before he actually got sacked. And it got to the point where fans were just, you can't command any respectability as a manager when the fans are that done with you that they don't want you there, and they basically assume that you've already been sacked. You know, it came about 3-4 weeks too late when Harris went, because the feeling was so toxic around the club. And Tom, we can say that Bulut perhaps deserves another couple of games, maybe he deserves until the international break, just to give him that span of time. But if he's done in the eyes of the fans, then he's only ever one loss away from a toxic atmosphere, isn't he?
Yeah, I think that's the problem now. It's just, it does feel like it's past that point. I think the big rescuer was the Swansea game. That gives you a get out of jail free card there. You get that, he's there kicking off on the sideline. We come back from behind and you think, right, okay, that gives him a few weeks. But it's just the nature of this Derby game now. Yeah. It's hard to come. We haven't got that type of. Actually, perhaps Leeds is that type of fixture. You get a result there, it might buy you a few weeks. It's that type of team that if you get a result against, it does give you a lift. It might be a good time for that type of fixture, or it could be an absolute nightmare and we get absolutely pumped. But it does feel like it's too far gone now. And I think one of the Twitter comments highlighted it is about Bellamy. I think that really doesn't help the kind of optics of this situation, where you see someone who was linked to this. Let's not forget that. Like
he was our youth team manager.
Yeah, exactly right. Who's gone into Wales now with the philosophy and speaks clearly about what his plan is. Maybe too far that way, right? At times that we know every inner workings of how that system works. But you've got that type of manager there with Wales, and then you've got Bulut here, where you've kind of gone, I don't really know what he's doing. So you put those side by side, and it just makes things 10 times worse. And I think, I'm a fairly optimistic fan. I think all three of us are. We're very rarely call for a manager to go, and I'm still not quite calling him to go. But I wouldn't be disappointed if that corner flag picture did appear, because it does feel like we've lost our way completely.
I think it's worse when you're talking about those two people and their car parking spaces are right next to each other.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's where it gets even more.
You could ask him what he's doing. Borrow his notepad.
Yeah. Literally just not. Erol, just pop downstairs, mate. They are like the Welsh office is literally downstairs. Just pop downstairs and have a chat because fucking something ain't working here. And Bellamy seems to be. He like even without watching, I guarantee you he's watched about 8 Cardiff games this season just to look at Colwell. So, yeah.
I would love a penny for Bellamy's thoughts about he's such a football nerd and he's such a football obsessive that he's probably figured out what's going wrong. He's probably figured out where the changes could be made.
So I want not the press trained, sort of Craig Bellamy. I want the Finland interview after Wales lost 2-0 to them, Craig Bellamy, to really go into that. Because I think that is one hell of a like truth then to what it is. And it's not just then just on Bulut, it will be everything pulled apart. Because I think that's partly why Bellamy couldn't work at Cardiff, is he will clash with that hierarchy beyond belief. Tan is a very stubborn man that's not used to sort of being confronted. Lamucci, good or bad, or whether we want him or not, he sort of made that stand against Tan, sort of told Tan some home truths about what that club needed, what this club needed. And he wasn't stuck, like he was told to leave. That's why, and that's why Bellamy wouldn't work at Cardiff, and that it would be a really sad end to that, and you'd lose Bellamy forever. At least at some point, if Tan does go, and he will at some stage, there's that faint glimmer of hope that Bellamy might one day manage us.
Listen, we're 5 games into the season. We're already at our favourite topic, the hierarchy of this football club and how bad it is. It's time for bingo, isn't it? What are we going to say here, Ben? We need a football director in the boardroom. Tan needs to go. Chew and Dalman need to be at the club full time. What else can we say here, Ben? Do you want to have a little rant?
I want to, but I don't.
Do you have the energy for a rant?
It's just apathy, isn't it? It's that old friend that A word's appeared. It's been a while, but it's just, what's the point? They don't care.
No,
like they've like we joked about how we haven't heard from them for a while. I think it's gone past them giving a shit. I think it's just leave it burn. It's just a sad, shitty state of affairs with 2 blokes scamming an absolute fortune out of us, one in interest, one in a direct salary. Bastards, the lot of them.
And that's the home truth, isn't it, Tom? We are gonna get rid of Bulut at some point, whether it's today, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's after the game on Saturday, whether it's in 2 weeks' time when we're inevitably bottom of the league with 2 points this time because we somehow scrambled a draw against someone. He's going to go. The next manager is going to come in, and what's going to change in reality to the way this football club is run? Nothing. Tan still has sole ownership of things, of decision making, and he's over in Malaysia. He doesn't give a shit really about the club, other than the fact that it's costing him a lot of money, and that's going to be the problem with Bulut, isn't it? If Bulut goes, he signed a 2-year contract. There's going to be a lot of compensation payments. There's going to be a lot of payouts on the managers and the staffing leaving, and Tan's going to retract even more into a shell, isn't he?
I think the worrying thing is we might end up going back to that plug-in holes thing that we were doing, like 1-year rolling contracts. It's like, Tan remembers, like he's probably still got a darple with Cornelius's face on out in Malaysia somewhere. Like he's going to go, well, I gave this bloke a contract and now it's cost me money. Why am I going to do that again? And I think that's the worrying thing. It's like, we want this continuity with managers. But the one thing we don't want continuity with is the way the club has been run. We want that to change. And I think we've given them a fair bit of credit over the last season or two. I say that. we were pretty pissed off about the Bulut situation, and it's still the knock-on effect of that has probably not helped. But like we gave a bit of credit of them tying him down and giving a bit of money in the transfer market and stuff. But in reality, it's because we're trying to clutch on little positives. The damage was probably already done. You know, Bulut would have felt like he was on shaky ground for the whole time he's been here, really, not really knowing where he's coming from, moving families over. You know, it's not like he's Cardiff born and bred. It's a big decision, and like the coaching staff and things like that. So it could have been a lot rosier. Like, and there's clearly a disconnect between Bulut on the squad. Well, it's quite hard to build and foster those relationships if you don't know you're going to be there next week and things like that. So it does all stem from this kind of apathy that comes from the top, you know. And like, Dalman and Chu are idiots, very, very clever and astute football idiots. Like, they've been there for so long now. Something does need to change, and I've been careful, like, to kind of not lay into the hierarchy. And like I was fairly positive about them in this podcast earlier on. I think not everything is down to them, but just none of it helps. And then when things turn, the fans turn quicker because we've seen this before. We've gone through this before.
We know the story.
And exactly. We know the story. So yeah, it's a sorry situation once again.
If you look back at the Tan stuff and you're saying like he was hesitant to give Bulut that contract, right? You've negotiated a 2-year contract. The reason it's taken so long is, like, imagine you're going to job negotiations, right? You're going, right, the reason I'm not giving this 2-year contract is because I don't want to pay you more money when I sack you. Because that's basically what Tan did this summer is, oh, well, I know I'm going to sack him at Sun Stage and I don't want to pay him all that money. Because that's
football, though. That's football, though. Now, isn't it?
It's a mental sort of power thing. Like, instantly, that sort of aura around the manager is sort of gone when they're going, oh, he's going to go at some point. It sort of kills any sort of hope around that. We all know at some stage a manager's going to go. But when an owner's going, well, I'm trying to save a few quid because I'm going to sack you in less than 12 months. And again, the frustrating thing is with it, that Tan's worst fear has come to truth, isn't it? He's given him a 2-year contract, and now he's got to pay him up on that 2-year contract when he didn't want to give it him. That's where that's really frustrating. And it's like you said, Thomas,
his next manager's choice.
Yeah, it's just a vicious circle again, isn't it? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy when you sort of go in with that mindset.
Yeah. Ben, you know, it's been a day on Twitter. There's been rumours, dispelling of rumours. There's been a lot of nonsense. Are we making it worse for ourselves as a fan base? You know, every comment, you know, I understand why people are angry. 90% of those Twitter comments to us were about Bulut having to go. There's very few people being positive about it. We've had in the no accounts making stuff up today. We've had the fallout from a weekend result and all that stuff. It doesn't help the situation, does it?
No, I think it's got to be patient. You can sort of give your opinion on it, but people going out and spouting these facts, it's similar to like the Kiefer Moore thing. And like you go back to the transfer window, these in the know accounts are doing more harm than good. They're riling up the fans. They're making things there. They're flip flopping left and right. 1 minute Bulut's the best thing going. Oh fuck! I'm not gonna call them out. But I was going to, but I'm not going to because I don't want to edit it. But there's lots of people who we all sort of know who they are that recently in the last 24 hours have seen which way sort of the public opinion shifted, and they've done a full 180 on their opinion and gone very hard on Bulut out, Bulut's this, Bulut's that. It all just adds this shit feeling. Just shut up. You don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going on. People in the club don't know what's going on. Just let it play out. Express your opinion. Be fair with that. And like they're more than entitled to do that. But people sort of claiming the club are doing this, the club are doing that. You've not got a clue.
I think though, outside of the ITK nonsense, I don't think the fans have been like that bad on this topic for once. I think, like I said earlier on, I think we've been really patient with the Bulut thing. It just feels like it's gone too far now. But like it is the whole Twitter storm about making shit up. I think we've just got to learn to ignore a lot of these accounts. But the problem is, it comes from
we're starved of information.
Yeah, we're starved of information, and we're looking for a crumb of positivity or something that's moving, like something that's changing, and it's a balance of that. Like at the end of the day, it's mainly born out of Cardiff fans wanting the club to do well. And I think it's normally coming from a good place. It's just you do get this faceless account bollocks that does stir things up. I think aside from that, for once, Cardiff fans have been fairly level-headed.
The age-old question, Ben, Tom, if we do sack Bulut, who's coming in? Is Darren Purse getting that upward promotion that he's been craving? Are we hiring Ryan Lowe? Ben, who are your choices?
I got two things. Simon Cymru Bluebird Cymru on Twitter said he's fine with Purse coming in, but he's got to shave his head. And I completely agree with that. It's got to be bald Darren Purse. If he comes in, it's got to be bald Darren Purse. That's fine.
Head Darren Purse is woke nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah. This woke nonsense is just silly. Get the Sean Dyche meme out. But for me, if after that, I think I've said in the chat, if he's well enough, it's Tony Mowbray. Just love the bloke to bits. I even if the football's crap and I don't care. The love that man has for Revels, it just needs to be him just for that. Just the preamble for his press conference talking about chocolate. Just get him in for there. There's good feelings about them at least. But he's done a great job. He did a great job at Birmingham, sort of almost turned them around before sort of he was taken ill. Did a wicked job at Sunderland and was unlucky to lose his job there. He's good with youth players. It seems like a very sensible appointment. So that's why it's not going to happen. And I'm just sort of glad Steve Bruce has gone to Blackpool.
Tom?
I had the same conversation about Steve Bruce because there's only one person in my office who likes soccer, as they say here. And he's a Newcastle fan. And he was joking about Steve Bruce. And I was like, please don't. But thankfully he's at Blackpool. But if Purse comes in, I feel like you need then a second centre-half to be his assistant. I think it'd look weird him stood on his own. So do you bring in a Gapege, a Louvens? Does Roger Johnson make an appearance to the club?
I was supposed to say, is Roger Johnson what's he up to these days?
I think he's just finished playing football. He was managing somewhere.
Somewhere, that'll do. Look, he's got experience, leadership. Will take it.
I'll Google it now. I'll carry on with what you were saying.
I think there's a few more options out there now than there was before, probably for a manager. Like you've got the likes of Rosenior, you've got Schumacher from the other basket case of Stoke. That everything that they try to do, nothing ever works.
But they've sacked him. And he's not even doing it. I look at the results; they're not that bad. I don't get what's going on there.
I always look at Stoke as a bellwether of like a barometer. Sorry, of are we completely fucked? It's like, no, at least Stoke are being Stoke, and they're stoking again. So,
even last season they didn't like Schumacher. This season they warmed to him, and now they can't believe that he's been sacked.
It's brilliant stuff. Maybe we can benefit from that. But I know I like it hasn't. Well, it worked to a point like with Bullet, but I like the plucking a manager that we don't know from a league that I haven't ever watched. There's something quite exciting about that. And I think it does buy you a bit of time with the fan base. We turn on a British manager probably quicker because we know their flaws and stuff already. But it feels weird speaking about who our new manager would be when we haven't sacked him, but it is just that inevitable, isn't it? Really,
and this podcast has to last a week. So if we do sack him at some point, we need to have had this discussion because it's harder to do an emergency podcast, Tom, when you live in Australia.
All right. To be fair, I've got straight from bed, as anyone who's watched this on YouTube will see, straight into this. I've been pretty flexible.
Roger Johnson, I think, managed for about 7 months at Brackley Town, 2022 to 2023. He left the club when they were in 4th position.
We've employed people from worse positions than that.
Well, at Brackley now. They're still in National League North. Interesting. I'd go for Stephen Schumacher. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? The current state of affairs at Cardiff City FC. Nothing gets better, it only gets worse. Now, it's a bit of an about turn, but I think it's only right that we obviously discuss the great man. Hopefully this will put all our troubles and worries into perspective when you realise that, we have lost one of the greats of recent Cardiff City history in the last 2 weeks. Obviously, Sol Bamba tragically passed away 2 weeks ago, just at the age of 39. We were as shocked as anyone to hear the news. I think we were meant to be recording that weekend after the last game before the international break, but it just didn't seem right. It was so sudden, so shocking. And obviously we've had 2 weeks now of lots of outpouring and love and affection for Sol Bamba. There'll be a tribute at the game against Leeds on Saturday. A fitting time to be playing Leeds, obviously one of his former clubs in the Championship as well. And we just want to spend some time remembering the great man. Ben, Sol Bamba, he was a huge part of some of the most recent successes at the club, wasn't he?
Yeah, one of the most fun times at the Cardiff City Stadium. Yeah. He sort of 5 years at the club made a huge impact. Like there's not many players that have made such an impact on their debut. Like coming out the cold, sort of no club, he left Leeds on transfer deadline day on a free transfer, came to Cardiff then middle of October and scores the winner against Bristol. It was like just meant to be, and from then on just absolutely love the bloke. There's not this like footballers that you like and you really love on the pitch, but then there's characters and people that really connect with you on like a personal level, or someone like, I love him. I properly like, I want to spend time with that person off the pitch and not even talk about football, just be in their presence. And Sol was massively one of those to me. Just everything about him. I bumped into him once in town, and I've done a couple of bits for the club with him. And each time he was lovely and made me feel like I was his mate, which a lot of footballers don't have that sort of personable thing about them. It's a rare thing in any walk of life for someone to be like that. But like, I think the second time I saw him, his arm was around me, he was giving me a hug and stuff. And it was sort of like best buds. And like, the second time I ever spoke to the bloke, just an absolutely wonderful, wonderful man.
Tom, you know, he kind of was what's the word I'm looking for? He was the archetype of what we expect from a Cardiff City player, wasn't he? He was committed. He was slightly a shithouse, but he did everything with this kind of like commitment to the club, didn't he? And that's what made him stand out for us.
Yeah, 100%. I think you have like different types of player, but he was one of those players who did all that stuff, like the shithousing stuff and the hard tackles, but with a smile on his face that you could get away with anything. You know, like there's been times where he didn't get booked for taking his top off because probably the referee was probably stood back smiling at watching Sol celebrating, because he was just one of those characters that made you want to turn up and watch Cardiff, because if he's enjoying that much on the pitch, then, you know, it's infectious and it gets into the stands. And I think he had qualities that's really hard to teach, or you just can't teach. Like Ben's on about there, he instantly puts people at ease.
Yeah,
you know, you feel comfortable to be in his presence, and you could see that off the pitch and on the pitch. Then, you know, there's no coincidence that we saw success while he was playing with us, because it must have been unbelievable to be in the team playing with him. Like, just when things go wrong, to see him there, just solid bloke, but you know, we'll put the arm on the shoulder when needed, but we'll give you, I'm sure he'd give you a rock up the ass if you needed it as well, but you take it from Sol, because he was that type of character. You knew he was coming from the same, you know, from the right place. And there's a reason that Warnock would take him to every club that he went to, because you know that's a character you want in the dressing room. And I think in modern football, and it's not a player's fault because it's just the way the game has gone, those types of characters are hard to find. And I think we were very, very lucky to have him at our club, and to have him taken away so soon is such a tragedy. It's always a tragedy when you lose a player, but we've lost a huge part of our history there. And, you know, he's part of management teams and stuff as well. He was a huge part of this club, and over a fairly short period of time, when you think about it, like, he made such an impression. And there's not one person who's got a bad word to say about him, because he's just a top human, a top footballer. And you just cry out for players like that just make you fall back in love with the game.
Well, when you think of that Premier League year, there was, you know, we could talk about his whole time over the club. Obviously, we talked about the goal against Bristol, but there was that goal against Brentford in the season we got promoted. That kind of
ridiculous
volley from the edge of the box. And what Sol Bamba scoring a goal like that. We've already talked about it, that when he put more payoff when he was on the line, and it absolutely, you know, Bamba directed him to put it wide by basically narrowing the goal to the point where he couldn't do it. And then the Premier League year, I mean, it was punctuated by those moments. Obviously, the goal against Brighton and that post-match interview where he said, "We'll keep it for ourselves," because the referee didn't book him, breaking that fans'
naughty school kid.
Exactly that, like a naughty school
so
kid.
Funny.
But he was just, there was something so infectious about him, and I think when when you saw the photos of him at Lab 22 celebrating his birthday in that suit and all that kind of stuff, there was just something about him, a quality that didn't, just made him stand out. And I think it's an absolute tragedy that he's been taken away from us so young. And I think, it's right that we're honouring him on Saturday, but I just, he deserved probably more in his lifetime to have been honoured by the club in a certain way. And I think he obviously knew, he came back, and Tom, you touched on it there. He was part of the Lamucci management team that kept us up. And I remember it was at Watford away where he was given the fist pumps to the crowd. And it was a fitting way for him to end his time at Cardiff City, perhaps. But he was just so integral in those years, and him and Warnock had such a lovely relationship. We got a few of the Twitter memories. Wyn Howell says that Sol's goal at Brentford stood out for him. It was world class. There was Lee Spear said Sol was just perfect for us, a blood and guts footballer that won our respect for his performances, one of our affection with his personality and smile. He will be missed. Love you, Sol. K49745 has sent a photo of him on promotion day 2018 with Sol Bamba. Where is the other ones here? Alex Bennett said Sol showed the differing opinions of City fans by winning the ball outside the box and then within a few strides going into the opposing half. A mixture of go on Sol and fucking hell, where's he going? Also the double fist bump when he came back as manager. Benefactor said a wonderful centre-back and an absolute warrior. Everyone loved up to and in around the club. Sorely missed and just devastating for his family. Favourite memory, breaking that lad's glasses, celebrating the goal versus Southampton, and then pays for a new pair. Ben, we've talked about his general. What was your favourite moment with Sol Bamba?
I think it's that interview. I think it is the interview where he's like, when the presenter asks him, "Did you tell the referee you didn't take your top off?" And he's like, properly like a naughty little, like mischievous little kid. Yeah, I did. And it's there's no sort of like hiding, like there's no press. He's not thought in his head of like, oh, I need to be manage this. Don't want to get in trouble. Like it is probably, yeah, I did. It's funny, isn't it? And it's just summed the bloke up. And that is just, whenever I think of Sol, I think of that interview, and it's just so funny because it's just, as a, like we were lucky, like we did that Warnock thing back in June, and like Moz, Warnock, and Rawls were telling stories about him, and like they were just laughing their heads off at the stuff he did, like on and off the field, just talking about what a good bloke he was. And I think that's what sums him up. Is you speak to every player and what they've said about him, like a lot of people talk about what he did on the pitch, but every single one of them have focused on him as a bloke, not as a player. Yeah. And that's a huge testament to him and what his character was.
Kieran Edwards said his favourite Sol Bamba moment was the great volley at Brentford and the goal against Bristol City in Warnock's first game. Tom, what was your favourite Bamba moment?
Chelsea away for me. From a selfish point of view, I had money on him to score first, because I wanted him to score first. He was that type of player. It wasn't, you're not doing, when you're putting those silly bets on first goal scorers, it's not because you think they'll score first, it's because you want him to score first. Yeah. And the way that he scores that goal, we saw us go 1-0 up at Stamford Bridge in the Premier League, and he was the person who did that. Yeah, it ended 4-1, but forget that. Yeah. But like, it's just the way he peels off, points at the bench, like, and runs directly over. But you can see by the way that the players were celebrating with him, that if they weren't scoring themselves, they'd want. To be honest, they'd probably want him to score more than scoring themselves. A lot of those players, because he's that type of player. You know that the beaming smile would be straight across his face. He'd be running like a lunatic across the pitch, and just the moments like that. He scored a lot of goals for a centre half. Like he was just a fantastic player, and it's funny, like you can ask the question of so many players, you'd be like, what's your favourite moment? And you've got a short amount, really. But with him, there's so many on and off the pitch. And like I said earlier, we're so lucky to be able to kind of hark back at some of these moments that he provided for us, because it's some of the best times I've had as a Cardiff fan, and he is a huge, huge part of that.
Well, I mean, I always remember that first season he was with us when I think him and Neil Warnock almost had a fight on the touchline against Ipswich away. Of course. And Warnock's tried to calm down this bloke who's 6'4" and towering over him. And he managed to do it somehow, because Bamba had that kind of level of deference for Warnock. And you've seen all the videos of the relationship that him and Warnock had, and it was special. And I think, Bamba was, I think you touched on it, Ben. Like, and it was similar with Peter Whitnam, right? When people talked about their memories of Whitnam, it wasn't always, he was a bloody good footballer. And he was really good at doing stuff on the football pitch, but it was the stuff off the pitch that stood out. And that's what it was with Bamba as well. You can see it. Like, when you picture him, you could picture him smiling. You could picture him buying that lad his new pair of glasses, celebrating with the fans in a certain way, all that kind of stuff. Like, they're the moments that stand out for Sol Bamba, and they're the moments that are going to live on. And I think, we've got the tribute on Saturday at the Leeds game. There's the lymphoma action night on Friday night. If you haven't already, go to that cardiffcityfc.co.uk for all the information. It's on our Twitter page as well. Tickets are just £10, and it'll go to supporting obviously a massive cause that's close to him. And I just think the best thing we can do with Sol Bamba is just, live on through those memories and live on through those moments. Because footballers, it's a funny one because we didn't. Ben, you've met him. I never met the guy, but I felt like I knew the guy. When you watch him on the football pitch, you get a sense of what a bloke he was when you see how players react to him. And that's why it was so sad, because there's no way someone should be dying so young. But a footballer is bigger than a normal person to you. They're your heroes. To see him, succumb to cancer at the age of 39 was an absolute tragedy. So, we'll continue to talk about Sol Bamba throughout the season. We're trying to speak to some of the players who played with him to get their memories as well. But, it's just, I just feel sorry for his family, and I'm just so sad for him and his family. So
the dignity his wife has, like the posts and stuff.
What a woman!
Oh, what a woman she is! Honestly, she's had me crying like this. That Instagram post just had me bawling my eyes out. Like, just so much like respect and love for what they've done, how she's dealt with everything, because it must be so tough for her and her kids. Yeah,
and I think that's what Saturdays. There's a lot of toxicity swirling around this football club at the moment, and I think it should all be put into perspective by Sol Bamba and the fight he went through and what his family are going through now. And I think Saturday is, no matter what, a day for celebrating him and celebrating his career at both Cardiff and Leeds. So I hope that whatever happens this week, Saturday can be that occasion for them both, and that Friday's a nice evening for everyone to remember him by, and we have that, and there's a permanent tribute for him going forward. So I don't think we should really talk about the Leeds game. I think we can leave the podcast there. I think we've said enough. Thank you to everyone who's listened. Obviously, if you want to get involved, twitter.com/VFT Ninian. You can find all our details there, and we'll be back after the Leeds game on